Cora floated alone in the dark water, her massive body casting shadows across the empty ocean floor. She was twice the size of any normal, and that was her curse. The other members of her species feared her, whispered about her, and finally they had thrown her away. She remembered the day clearly. The Elder Council had gathered around the entrance to the sacred spawning caverns. Every adult went there to release their eggs when the breeding season came. It was the most important moment in their lives. But when Cora tried to enter, her body would not fit through the narrow opening. She pushed and struggled, but the ancient stone passage was too small. "She is broken," the High Priestess had declared. "Nature has rejected her. She cannot fulfill her purpose." They sent her here to the dead trenches. This place had no food, no light, no life, just empty water and cold stone. Cora had been here for 3 cycles now, counting the days by the dim light that filtered down from the surface. She was dying slowly. Her body still produced eggs, but with nowhere to release them, they dissolved back into her system. The pain was terrible. It felt like burning from the inside. She had given up hope. Death would come soon, and she welcomed it. That morning, Cora noticed something strange. A metal object floated above the trenches, making clicking sounds. She had seen these before. The humans used them to study the ocean. Cora hid behind a rock formation. The humans had never bothered her, but she trusted no one anymore. The metal device came closer. It pointed a beam of light directly at her hiding spot. Cora held very still. "What is that?" a voice said. The words came from a speaker on the device. Cora understood some human language. She had taught herself by listening to their transmissions. "That's way too big to be a normal." Another voice responded. "Leave it alone. We're not supposed to go near the trenches." "Look at the size. This could be a completely different species. I need to document this." Cora watched as a small submarine descended from above. It was clear on one side, and she could see a human male inside. He had dark hair and wore a white uniform. His eyes went wide when he saw her fully. "By all the stars," he whispered. He pressed buttons on a control panel. "I'm recording this. The specimen is approximately 6 meters long compared to the standard 3 meters of adult. Coloring is consistent with the species, but the size variation is extreme." Cora decided to move. She swam out from behind the rocks, her powerful tail propelling her through the water. The human submarine followed her at a distance. "It's moving away," the human said. "Wait, those are definitely features. The fin structure, the bioluminescent patches, the facial anatomy. This isn't a different species. It's just enormous." Cora stopped and turned to face the submarine. She was tired of running. If this human wanted to study her like some strange creature, let him. Nothing mattered anymore. The human brought his submarine closer, very slowly, like he was afraid of scaring her. Through the clear panel, Cora could see his face more clearly now. He looked excited, not disgusted, not afraid, just curious. "Hello," he said through the speaker. "Can you understand me?" Cora made a clicking sound, the way of saying yes. The human's face lit up with surprise. "You understand, I'm I'm a scientist from Earth. I study life forms on other planets." He paused. "Why are you out here alone? To live in the reef cities, not the trenches." Cora pointed with her fin toward her body, then toward the direction of the reef cities far away. Then she made a gesture like pushing something away. Rejection. His expression changed. He looked sad. "They sent you away because of your size." Another clicking sound. "Yes." "That's horrible," said quietly. He moved his submarine even closer. "I'm going to come back tomorrow with better equipment. Is that okay? I want to help you if I can." Cora did not respond. Help? No one could help her. The sacred caverns had been carved by nature thousands of years ago. Nothing could change them, and her body would keep making eggs she could never release. Help was impossible. But the human did not seem to understand impossible. He smiled at her. "I'll see you tomorrow, friend, I promise." The submarine rose back toward the surface. Cora watched it go. She felt something she had not felt in a long time. It was small and fragile and probably foolish, but it was there. She felt the tiniest bit of hope. That night, Cora created art like she always did to pass the time. She used her bioluminescent patches to paint patterns of light on the dark rocks, swirling designs that told stories of the life she could never have. A mate, children, a home. Maybe this human would come back. Maybe he would not. But for the first time in 3 cycles, Cora wanted to see tomorrow. Returned the next day, just as he promised. This time he brought more equipment and another person. Through the submarine's clear panel, Cora saw a human female with short black hair. "This is my colleague, Doctor," said through the speaker. "She's a medical specialist. We want to run some scans on you. It won't hurt, I promise. We just want to understand what's happening to you." Cora floated in place, uncertain, but had kept his word about returning. Maybe she could trust him a little. She clicked once, yes. Activated the medical scanner. Blue light washed over Cora's body. The human female studied a screen inside the submarine, her eyebrows drawing together. "This is incredible," said, "and terrible, look at this." She turned the screen so could see. Cora watched his face change from curious to horrified. "Those are eggs," said. "Dozens of them, but they're not developing. They're just sitting there, and look at this tissue damage. The eggs are breaking down inside her body. It's causing massive inflammation," added. "The egg material is toxic when it's reabsorbed. She's essentially poisoning herself." She looked at Cora through the clear panel with sad eyes. "How long has this been happening?" Cora held up 3 fins. 3 cycles, 3 years of this pain. His hands formed fists. "Why didn't they help her? This is a medical emergency." "I asked around yesterday after you told me about her," said quietly. "The council declared her defective. They consider her size a genetic mistake. In their culture, if you can't spawn in the sacred caverns, you're not a real member of the species." "That's insane," said. "She's not defective, she's just big. There has to be a way to help her." Looked uncomfortable. "We're guests on this planet. They have made it clear we shouldn't interfere with their cultural practices. If we help her and they find out, they could expel all humans from." "I don't care," said firmly. He turned to look at Cora. "Can you show us these sacred caverns? I want to see exactly why you can't enter." Cora hesitated. Going near the reef cities was dangerous. If the others saw her, they would chase her away. But something in his voice made her believe. She nodded and began to swim. It took 2 hours to reach the outskirts of the reef city. Cora stayed low and in the shadows while and followed in their submarine. The sacred caverns were carved into an ancient underwater cliff. Cora could see others swimming in and out of various entrances. She pointed to the largest opening. That was where adults were supposed to enter during spawning season. Brought the submarine close to examine the entrance. "I'm measuring the width. Okay, the opening is approximately 2.5 meters at its widest point." He looked at Cora. "And you're 6 meters long. There's no way you could fit through there." Cora clicked sadly. She had tried. She had scraped her skin bloody trying to force herself through. It was impossible. "What's inside?" asked. Cora had never been inside, but she knew the stories. She tried to explain using gestures and the few human words she had learned. There were pools inside. Special pools with warm water from deep in the planet. They released their eggs in these pools, and the eggs would hatch after a few weeks. "Geothermal pools," said, understanding. "The heat and minerals must trigger the eggs to develop properly." Was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the cavern entrance, then at Cora, then back at the entrance. Cora could almost see his mind working. "What if we created an artificial spawning pool?" he finally said. Shook her head. "That's impossible. We don't know the exact conditions inside those caverns. Temperature, mineral content, pH levels, electromagnetic fields, Everything has to be perfect or the eggs won't develop. So we figure it out, said. We're scientists. This is what we do. We solve impossible problems. The council will never allow it, warned. Then we don't ask permission, said. He looked at Cora again. Listen to me. I know what it's like to watch someone suffer when you can't help them. My daughter died when she was 7 years old, a genetic disease. The doctors said it was impossible to cure. I became a scientist because I refused to accept impossible anymore. His voice was intense. You deserve to be a mother. Your size doesn't make you broken. It makes you different, and different can be beautiful. Cora felt something warm spread through her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever suggested that she had value. She reached out with one fin and gently touched the submarine's clear panel, placed his hand on the other side, matching her gesture. I'm going to help you, he said. I promise you that. It might take time and it won't be easy, but I won't give up on you, okay? Cora made a sound she had not made in 3 years. It was the sound for gratitude, for hope, for trust. Smiled, let's get to work. As they swam back to the trenches, Cora dared to imagine something impossible. She imagined eggs hatching. She imagined Tiny swimming around her. She imagined being called mother. And for the first time since her exile, she believed it might actually happen. 2 weeks passed and came to visit Cora every single day. He brought different equipment each time. Cameras, sensors, strange devices that beeped and hummed. He was learning everything he could about her biology. One day he arrived with 2 other humans, a woman with glasses and tired eyes, and a young man with oil stains on his hands. Cora, this is Dr. Park, said, pointing to the woman. She's an engineer who builds things for underwater environments, and this is Minu. He's our best technician. They're going to help us. Studied Cora through the submarine window. Told us everything. I won't lie to you. What we're trying to do is very difficult, but I've looked at the plans and I think we can build a portable spawning chamber. Minu held up a tablet showing a design. It looked like a large tank with tubes and machines attached. We'll need to get the conditions exactly right. The water temperature, the minerals, everything. But humans are good at copying nature. Over the next month, Cora watched them work. They built the chamber piece by piece at the human research station, visited her every few days to update her on their progress. He also brought her food, real food from the reef cities, not the scarce scraps she found in the trenches. You need to stay healthy, he told her, for when the chamber is ready. During these visits, Cora learned to communicate better. She practiced human words, speaking them slowly through her vocal organs. He learned some gestures and sounds. They told each other stories. Cora told him about her life before exile. She had been happy once. She had a mate named. They had chosen each other during the bonding season. But when the council declared her defective, had left her, he said he could not bond with someone who could never give him children. He was a coward, said angrily when she finished the story. You deserved better. Cora also showed her light paintings. Every night, she used her bioluminescent patches to create art on the rocks, swirling patterns of blue and green and gold, watched in amazement. These are beautiful, he said. You're an artist. No one had ever called her that before. In culture, art was not important. Only spawning mattered, only continuing the species, but looked at her light paintings like they were treasures. Told her about his daughter. She had loved to draw pictures, flowers and stars and animals. When she got sick, she could not hold the crayons anymore, so would move her hand for her, helping her create art even when her body was failing. I think she would have liked you, said quietly. She always loved big things. Whales, elephants, dinosaurs. She would have thought you were magnificent. Finally, after 6 weeks, the chamber was ready. They brought it down to the trenches in pieces and assembled it on the ocean floor. It was a large cylinder made of clear material, with machines on top to control the water inside. We've programmed it with the best data we could gather about the sacred caverns, explained. Temperature, salinity, mineral composition. We even added artificial geothermal vents to simulate the natural heat source. Mean you check the connections one final time. All systems are working. We're ready when you are. Cora looked at the chamber. It seemed too small, too artificial. How could this human machine replace the sacred caverns that had existed for thousands of years? But touched her fin gently. Trust us, trust me. She did. She swam into the chamber. The water inside was warm, almost hot. It felt strange. The machines hummed around her. Watch from outside, his face pressed close to the clear wall. Now release your eggs, he said. Your body knows what to do. Cora closed her eyes and let her body do what it had wanted to do for 3 terrible years. She released the eggs. They floated in the warm water, small and pale and perfect. Everyone waited. The eggs just floated there, not developing, not hatching, just hanging in the water like they were suspended in time. Hours passed, nothing changed. Why isn't it working? Minyu asked, checking his equipment. All the parameters are correct. Ran more tests. The eggs aren't responding. Something's missing, but I don't know what. Cora felt her hope crumbling. She had let herself believe. She had let herself dream. And now, watching her eggs float lifelessly in the artificial chamber, she realized how foolish she had been. The humans had tried. They had worked so hard, but some things truly were impossible. She made a sound of grief, deep and mournful, the sound a maid when all hope was lost. His face went pale. No, no, we're not giving up. There has to be something we missed. Said gently, maybe we need to accept that we can't replicate nature perfectly. We tried our best. Our best isn't good enough, shouted. Then he stopped, closing his eyes. When he opened them again, they were full of determination. I need to get inside the sacred caverns. I need to see exactly what makes them work. The will never let you in, said. Then I'll sneak in, said. Tonight, when everyone's sleeping. That's insane, said. If they catch you, they'll throw all of us off the planet. Looked at Cora. She's dying, her eggs are dying. I won't let that happen, not without trying everything. That night put on a diving suit and swam alone into the sacred caverns. Cora waited in the dark water, terrified for him. If they discovered a human in their most holy place, they would be furious. 2 hours later emerged. He was smiling. I found it, said, breathing hard from the swim. He held up a device covered in sensor readings. The sacred caverns aren't just near a geothermal vent. They're directly above a magnetic anomaly. The entire area has a unique electromagnetic field. That's what triggers the eggs to develop. Grabbed the device and studied the readings. Her eyes went wide. Of course. The eggs need the magnetic field as much as they need the heat and minerals. Without it, they just stay dormant. Can we replicate it? Asked. Give me 12 hours, said. They worked through the night. Minyu installed magnetic field generators around the spawning chamber, programmed them to match the exact frequency had measured. Cora watched them work, afraid to hope again but unable to stop herself. Dawn came. The modifications were complete. Turn it on, said. Minyu activated the magnetic field generators. The air hummed with energy. Inside the chamber, something changed. The eggs began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter. They were developing. Cora made a sound of pure joy. Her eggs were alive. After all these years, her eggs were finally alive. Was laughing and crying at the same time. It's working. It's actually working. The eggs continued to develop over the next week. Cora stayed close to the chamber, watching them constantly. Tiny shapes began to form inside each egg. Small fins, little tails. Her children were growing. But their secret did not last. On the 8th day, a group of soldiers appeared in the trenches. Leading them was High Priestess Vila, the eldest member of the council. Her silver scales marked her as ancient and powerful. "What is this blasphemy?" Vila demanded, her voice booming through the water. She stared at the spawning chamber with disgust. "You dare to mock the sacred caverns with your machine?" Swam forward in his diving suit, placing himself between the soldiers and Cora. "We're not mocking anything. We're helping someone who your people abandoned." "She was cast out because she is flawed," Vila said coldly. "Nature itself rejected her. You have no right to interfere with our ways." "Nature didn't reject her," said. "A narrow doorway rejected her. There's a difference." More arrived, dozens of them. Cora recognized some faces from her old life. They all looked at her with hatred and fear. She wanted to hide but stood firm in front of her. "The council demands you destroy this abomination," Vila said, pointing at the spawning chamber. "And the eggs inside it. They are unholy, born outside the sacred caverns." "No," said simply. The soldiers moved forward, activated his communication device. "We have a situation. I need backup." Within minutes, more human submarines arrived. And Minyu, along with several other human scientists and security personnel, they formed a circle around the spawning chamber. "You would start a war over this creature?" Vila asked in disbelief. "If we have to," said. "But I hope it doesn't come to that. Please, just listen to me." He pulled up data on his tablet. "We've been studying health records that your people shared with us. Do you know that the average size of newborn has increased by 20% over the last 3 generations?" Vila's expression did not change. "What of it?" "Better nutrition from trade with humans," explained. "Your people are healthier now, stronger, bigger, but your sacred caverns haven't changed. They're still the same size they've always been." He brought up a projection showing growth trends. "In 2 generations, maybe 30% of your population will be too large to fit through those entrances. Are you going to exile all of them too?" Murmurs spread through the gathered. Some looked troubled, others angry. "That is speculation," Vila said, but her voice was less certain. "It's mathematics," said. "You have a choice. Adapt now while you can control the change, or wait until your entire society collapses because most of your people can't reproduce." "Our ways have served us for 10,000 years," Vila said. "And they were perfect for that time," said. "But times change, species change. That's not weakness, that's survival." He gestured to Cora. "She's not broken, she's the future. The question is whether you'll accept that future or deny it until it's too late." One of the younger swam forward. She was large, nearly as big as Cora had been before her exile. "My name is Sara. I am the High Priestess's granddaughter. I was born larger than normal. Will I be cast out too when I am old enough to spawn?" Vila looked at her granddaughter with pain in her eyes. "Sara, you are not as large as this one." "Not yet," Sora said, "but I am still growing, and there are others like me, many others. What will happen to us?" The crowd was silent. Vila looked around at her people, at the young ones who were indeed larger than their parents, at the spawning chamber where Cora's eggs glowed with life, at who stood defiant and unafraid. "You ask us to abandon our most sacred traditions," Vila said quietly. "No," said. "I'm asking you to expand them. The sacred caverns will always be important, but they don't have to be the only way. Progress and tradition can exist together." Vila closed her eyes. She was quiet for a long time. When she opened them, she looked very old and very tired. "I need time to think," she said finally. "The council will discuss this." "Take all the time you need," said. "But those eggs will hatch in 3 days, and when they do, Cora will be a mother, whether you accept it or not." The council met for 3 days in the sacred caverns. Cora waited by her spawning chamber, watching her eggs develop. They were almost ready to hatch. She could see tiny movements inside the shells now, little fins twitching, small bodies turning. Stayed with her the entire time. He brought her food. He told her stories to distract her from the worry. He promised that no matter what the council decided, he would protect her children. On the morning of the 3rd day, The eggs began to crack. Cora's heart raced as she watched the first tiny split appear in an egg's surface. Then another crack, and another. The shells were breaking open from the inside. She whispered in human language, "They come." Activated his communication device. "Everyone, get down here now. The eggs are hatching." Within minutes, Minu and several other humans arrived. They watched in awe as the first baby emerged from its egg. It was tiny, no bigger than its hand. Its scales were pale blue and its eyes were huge. It made a small chirping sound. Cora reached into the chamber with her fin and gently touched her first child. The baby nuzzled against her, instinctively knowing its mother. Tears of joy streamed from Cora's eyes. "Hello, little one," she said softly. "I am your mother." More eggs hatched. One after another, 12 bobbies emerged into the warm water. They swam clumsily at first, bumping into each other and the chamber walls. But they were healthy, perfect, beautiful. "Congratulations," said his own voice thick with emotion. "You're a mother, Cora." Cora gathered her children close to her body. They clustered against her, seeking warmth and protection. This was the moment she had dreamed of for 3 terrible years, the moment she thought would never come, and it was even more wonderful than she had imagined. But then she heard sounds from above. They were coming. High Priestess Vila descended with the entire council and hundreds of other. They formed a massive circle around the spawning chamber. Cora's protective instincts flared. She positioned herself between her bobbies and the crowd. Vila swam forward slowly. Her ancient eyes looked at the chamber, at the broken eggshells, at the tiny bobbies clustered around Cora. Her expression was unreadable. "The council has made a decision," Vila said. Her voice carried across the water, formal and grave. Moved closer, ready to defend Cora if needed. Vila continued. "For 10,000 years our people have spawned only in the sacred caverns. We believed this was the only way, the natural way, the right way." She paused. "But perhaps we were wrong." A ripple of shock went through the crowd. "My granddaughter Sora spoke truth," Vila said. "Our people are changing. The young are larger, stronger, healthier than before. This is good, but if the sacred caverns cannot accommodate them, we must find another way." She looked directly at Cora. "We have watched you for 3 days. We have seen your eggs develop in this human machine, and we have seen them hatch into healthy larvae." The High Priestess swam closer to the spawning chamber. She looked at the bobbies with something that might have been wonder. "These children are," Vila declared, "born differently, yes, but nonetheless. The council recognizes them as legitimate members of our species." Cora could not believe what she was hearing. She made a questioning sound. "Furthermore," Vila continued, "the council accepts the use of artificial spawning chambers for those who cannot access the sacred caverns. This human technology will be studied and replicated. It will become an accepted alternative to traditional spawning." Looked stunned. "You're really allowing this?" "We are," Vila said, "but we have conditions. The humans must teach us to build these chambers ourselves. They must share all knowledge freely, and they must promise to help any who needs this assistance in the future." "Done," said immediately. "We'll provide full technical specifications and training, whatever you need." Vila turned to Cora. "You were cast out. We believed you were broken. We were wrong, and for that I apologize." The ancient priestess bowed, a gesture of deep respect among the. "You are welcome to return to the reef cities. Your children will be accepted. You will be honored as the first mother to spawn outside the sacred caverns." Cora could not speak. She could barely breathe. Around her, some of the younger began making sounds of approval. Sora swam forward and touched Cora's fin in friendship. "Welcome home," Sora said. Over the next weeks, everything changed. The humans worked with engineers to build more spawning chambers. They installed them throughout the reef cities. 3 other large, who had been living in shame because they feared exile, came forward to use the chambers. All of them successfully spawned healthy children. Cora moved back to the reef cities with her 12 bobbies. Other helped her raise them, bringing food and teaching them to swim properly. Cora named her first daughter, combining his name with his lost daughter's name. He cried when she told him. 5 years passed. Cora stood on a platform in the central reef, watching her children play with other young. Was the largest, already twice the size of her siblings. She would likely grow to be even bigger than Cora, but that was fine now. There were spawning chambers waiting for her when the time came. Swam up beside her in his diving suit. He was older now with more gray in his hair, but his smile was the same. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Happy," Cora said in perfect human language. She had become fluent over the years. "Grateful. Sometimes I still cannot believe this is real." "It's real," assured her. "You have 12 beautiful children. The spawning chambers are now standard across. The birth rate has actually increased because more people feel safe to have children." "Because one human refused to accept impossible," Cora said. "Because one refused to give up hope," countered. They watched the children play together, human and youngsters swimming side by side, learning from each other. The future was different from the past, but it was bright. "I have been asked to become an ambassador," Cora said. "The council wants me to travel to other settlements on distant moons, to teach them about the chambers, to show them that change is not death." "That's wonderful," said. "Will you go?" "Yes," Cora said. "But I wanted to thank you first for everything. You gave me my life back. You gave me my children. You gave me hope when I had none." Touched her fin through his suit's glove. "You gave me something too. You reminded me why I became a scientist, not to study interesting specimens or write research papers, but to help people, to solve problems, to make impossible things possible." Swam over to them. She was bold and curious, always asking questions. "Uncle, tell us the story again," she demanded, "about how you saved Mother." Other children gathered around, both and human. They loved this story. Looked at Cora, she nodded. "I didn't save your mother," said. "She saved herself. I just gave her the tools she needed. That's what humans do best. We build things. We solve problems. We refuse to accept that anyone is beyond help." He looked up at the vast ocean around them, at the reef cities glowing with bioluminescent light, at the children of two species playing together. "We believe that everyone deserves a chance to live their dreams. Everyone deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to be loved. And when the universe says something is impossible, we humans have a habit of proving it wrong." Cora gathered her children close. She looked at with gratitude and love. "Thank you," she said, "for making me a mother." "Thank you," replied, "for letting me help. That's all I ever wanted, to help." And in the warm waters of, surrounded by children and hope in the future, two friends from different worlds understood a simple truth. Sometimes the greatest strength is not refusing to accept impossible things. Sometimes the greatest strength is refusing to accept that anyone should suffer when you have the power to help. That was humanity's gift to the universe, and it was a gift worth sharing.